because that's actually the topic today, how to deal with stress. So, what is stress actually? Stress is a response, a physiological response of our bodies. It's ignited basically by our brain, because our brain notices something in our environments that gives us what we call a stress response. That stress response is basically a preparation of our nervous system to be ready to either fight or flight. Sometimes we also freeze, that's also part of that. So our nervous system has two ways. It's the sympathetic nervous system, and we have the parasympathetic nervous system. And it's this sympathetic nervous system that prepares us to fight or flight when there is something scary in our environment. So whenever something really scary is happening, like when there is a tiger in front of you, once when we were out in the open, we didn't have houses, biological speaking, we had to be ready to either fight or flight, to run away or to make sure that we would defend ourselves. So that's a perfectly normal response. And when you are in the street in the middle of the night and something scary is happening, it is also good that your sympathetic nervous system prepares you to either fight or flight. So what does it do? So your amygdala releases hormones, which is mainly adrenaline and cortisol and also some others, but these are the main stress hormones. They make sure that all functions of the body that you do not need for fighting or running away are shut down. So your digestive system is shut down, the need for rest is shut down, your muscles tense up so you're ready to run away, your heartbeat goes up so it's easy to run away. The vessels in your body are narrowed there so that only blood will go to those places that you need to fight or flight. And also your brain is adapting for just being very focused on those two actions, fighting or flighting. And when something bad happens, it's good, right? It's good that you can run away if it's really needed. But our brain doesn't always recognize the difference between an actual threat and a perceived threat. Even more, it sometimes responds even to what we perceive as a threat in our head, and it can be just a single thought about something that is not even here. We have so many thoughts during the day, and those thoughts are very often about the future, things we worry about. They're about the past, remembering things, chewing on things, sometimes remembering things that frightened us. And sometimes we are in the street and there's just the smell of something that triggers a response in our brain, a memory. Sometimes the memory is not even that conscious, but it's an old memory that is connected to an emotion that we once had that might be an unpleasant emotion that had to do with a scary situation. It could just have been you were a little kid and your mother brought you to the kindergarten and said goodbye and went, and you were afraid that she would never come back. And there was this lemon smell because they just were cleaning something. You might smell this lemon smell and bam, your body is back in that moment without you actually knowing that, because this is what happened. So not everyone has such a strong response. It depends on a lot of things. But what we do know is that when people have a lot of stress in their life, for whatever reason, they are more open for those stress responses. The longer we are in a stress response, and especially if it's chronic stress, for instance, because you have a job with a lot of deadlines, a lot of pressure, a lot of things going on, or you're a caretaker where you have to take care of multiple people at the same time and there's not enough room for you to rest, then we can get in this chronic stress. And that is where the sympathetic nervous system is doing overhours. So the other part of the nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, that is the one that is used when we are relaxed. when we want to go to sleep, when we digest. This is the whole other way. This is the soft, gentle, relaxing part of our nerve system, which we also need. But generally, when we have a lot of stress, it's really hard to have that part of the nervous system work. And the more this happens, the more there gets a disbalance. So, stress is not per se a bad thing. Let me really say that. Stress is not per se a bad thing. First of all, because it serves a purpose. However, when there is too much stress, and very often there is too much stress because there is no real reason to be stressed, because it's all in our imagination, in our beliefs, in our old wounds, our old emotions, our old memories, even though we don't consciously remember everything. And then stress can really hamper us. When we need to perform, or we have to make decisions, or there are some exciting things going on, a little bit of stress is not so bad. So we know from research that there is like an inverted U curve, as we call it, which means that the curve is going like this. So you don't have to perform, the stress is really low. The more you have to perform, the stress goes up. And it goes to a certain point where actually you can perform really good because you have this amount of stress, because those hormones will just help you to have the focus, to have the action, to be ready, to be alert, to be ready to move, to get ready to perform. But then when the stress doesn't release, it stays on the high level, the performance goes down. And that's because those hormones, that stress response takes over, clouds our brains. And especially when a lot of people are in chronic stress for a long time, we can get burnout, or we can get heart diseases. So many things can happen. Now, this inverted U curve of stress is really different for every person. And you know from you how sensitive you are for stress. But sometimes we do not always notice that we are. So for me, I always thought I was really good at dealing with stress. And I think I was. The clarity that came with it, the calmness that came with it, helped me to deal with stress. However, I could not really relax. I could not really help myself to get to that parasympathetic system, to get to work again. And though I liked the rush of adrenaline, I liked this feeling of stress, it was not so good for me. When I started to meditate many years ago, I started to notice after some time when my nervous system would kick in, when the stress response would kick in. And it was sometimes really early in the morning. I would get up, I would meditate, I would just be half an hour, 1 hour in my day, and suddenly I would feel in my stomach a response, a stress response. At the beginning, I didn't understand that so well. I said, well, I meditated, I'm calm, nothing is going on. And I realized that something in me was creating a stress response, and I began to understand myself as someone who is pretty sensitive for stress. And all my life, I had been ignoring that. All my life, I had been toughening up to deal with it, to make the best of it. And I did it. I did a good job. But it was not so beneficial for me or my mind, because when you use stress in that way, you also toughen up and you stop listening to your own needs. So when you're tired, you don't stop. When you're tired, you don't go to sleep. When you feel the stress of something that is expected from you, you push through rather than collecting yourself and feeling, hey, is this what I want to do? Or can I do it differently? Can I say no? So that is actually how I discovered self-gentleness. You know me, I speak a lot about self-gentleness. Of course, this all has to do also with that, even though I didn't put it so much in the title. It all has to do with tuning in with yourself, feeling how your body is, understanding what kind of thoughts are going on, seeing if we can detach from those thoughts if they are stressful, if they're not helping us, and really becoming aware of what is going on. So how are we doing that? I'm speaking now already for some time, explaining you what stress is or how it functions. You might know that already. An important part is, I think, also to start to understand how you are responding to stress. What stress actually is to you. Is it something you thrive on? Is that in the same way I just described for myself? Is it helpful or not? Or is it helping you to toughen up, to deal with all those situations? And what would happen if you would listen to that stress response earlier and to help yourself to release it? Because what I noticed when I started to listen better to what's going on in my body, acknowledging a stress response and then helping myself to let go of it, I discovered something. And I discovered that by helping myself to be relaxed and to calm my mind, I would find so much more clarity and focus than when I was in a stress response. Because in a stress response, you think that you are ready for everything, but there is this tense, there is this body that has to fight against those urges. But when you can get there from a relaxed body, a relaxed nervous system, and you know how to make your brain clear and sharp and focused, then you get all the benefits without needing that stress response. I hope you enjoy it. Have a beautiful weekend. I love you all so much. Thank you for being here.